All right, I'm Blaze. Welcome to episode 5 of Claude Code from Zero. So today we're going to be talking about subagents. So kind of everything that we've talked about thus far in the series has been in the context of this single context window, where we initialize Claude, we have our main conversation thread, and that's kind of it. You can honestly go into pretty decently complex workflows with just a good set of skills and rules. But eventually you are going to hit the point where one context window just isn't enough. And there's a few issues that you're going to run into. The first one is just the raw context usage, right? Like its workflows get so big, the context window fills up. But there's also a few other things. There's inference issues, like if you're doing really big workflows, there's the things that are core to the plan and like the core workflow that you're doing. But there's also going to be a lot of busy setup tasks that are just kind of eat context and kind of confuse the model because it's going to reference through all the context of those tasks as well as the core workflow. Like for instance, if I'm creating a merge request or something like that, or I'm doing some database stuff, that's not entirely relevant to the main stuff in the plan most of the time. It's just like a clerical setup thing. And so I really don't even care about the context, I just care about the outcome. But when I'm doing it in the main thread, it gets wasted. The other thing is just like tool exhaustion. So as you get more and more skills and you have a lot of tools and things might kind of be similar in some ways, the agent might start to get kind of confused about what to use when. And it might get worse results because it calls the wrong tool at times and things like that. And you'll start to have kind of annoyances with issues like that. And so the solution to all these is to use a subagent. So what a subagent does is rather than everything existing in this main context window, when we hit a task, like I was talking about, like one of those background tasks that a specialized agent could handle for us, we actually create our own dedicated subagent, and it has its own context window. And the context window size is full size to whatever model you select. So if you're using the same one as your main thread, it'll have the same context window as your main thread. And in addition to that, to the point about tool exhaustion, the main or the subagent will not automatically inherit tools that we have configured for our main thread, like in the form of like skills and MCPs and stuff like that. We will explicitly define what the subagent is allowed to use, so we can really limit it to only what it needs to accomplish that specialized task and keep it really focused and narrow. And then we also, in turn, remove all that noise from the main thread. The downside to this is that this subagent is somewhat black box because it has its own context window. So if it's something that's actually relevant to the context of the main kind of goal of the session, it's not always best to use a subagent because you might actually need to reference what it did. But for kind of atomic tasks, like I was talking about, where you just care about the outcome, it's great to use a subagent to remove that, and then it just gets thrown away when the agent's done. And then as far as configuration goes, I kind of pulled up the doc here. It looks very reminiscent of what we talked about with skills, where we have that YAML prefix, and we can kind of specify a few things. Like I can specify what tools to give it. I can specify what tools it's not allowed to use. And give that name and description for the same reason. These get lazy loaded as well. So in the beginning, when you initialize, Claude will kind of read and it'll know what agents are available, and then it'll call and read them as needed if they fit the kind of task it's trying to accomplish. And there's probably a list somewhere of all the flags. You can also set which model you want it to use. Here you can see it's passing skills. But yeah, and then this is an example of a code reviewer. So it reviews code, and you could call this subagent to run and go do something in parallel. And then when it was done, it would just give you results and then throw away all the context it had to go through to get it. So let's see what it looks like to configure one of these. So I kind of got my project open already here. And then if you remember last time we added this skill. Now I could go create an agent myself and write one of those YAMLs or Markdown with YAML. But actually, and the better way to do it in my opinion, I've had better results with this. If I run agents, I can hit create new agent. And then I get to specify if I want it on my user or if I want it on my project. For us, we're just going to say project because it's an example. And then I have the option to create it manually, or I can actually generate it with Claude. So I'm going to generate it with Claude, and then I just describe what I want it to do. So we kind of created this skill last time to use the Vercel agent browser. So I'm going to say I want an agent that it goes to my website with for sale agent browser. I have a skill it should have, and clicks a button. I'm gonna keep it real simple for this example, but I've wrote some pretty complex prompts and it's done really good with these. You basically just tell it what you want the subagent specialty to be, and then it's gonna run and it'll create the subagent. It might ask me a couple questions too. It's been a little bit since I did this. And it might take it a second, but like looks like it's good. I'm not worried. And then, like I said, you can select a specific model. Since this one's just clicking a button, but it does have to use a CLI. But I think Sonnet's probably good for that. And then I can set a color if I want to. I don't really care. I'll just go auto. And then this is agent memory. So we talked about memory with like the repo scope. So like project memory. There's also agent memory. So what agent memory is, a specific subagent can write notes and things to itself to continuously kind of improve. So that's pretty useful. I'm going to enable it. And then it looks like it has created. And then the only other thing is it did give it all tools by default. So if I wanted to limit tools, I could go set that. But for our example, I don't think it really matters too much. And then we should have our agent. Sure, why? Oh, I have to hit save. Sorry. So hit S to save. And now go to agents. We have our browser button clicker. And then if I remember correctly, I think we can also slash command this similarly to how we do with the skill. Our relaunch agent browser. What's it called? Browser button clicker. Not the most intuitive name, but so maybe I'm wrong. But I can hit agents and I should see it. Yeah, so there's my agent, and then I could edit it or things like that if I really wanted to within the CLI. You can also just edit the markdown file. But the idea is that now we would have a dedicated agent. So if I wanted to go click a button on the website, I could get this agent to go do that, and then it would just come back and tell me if it worked or not, versus having to have all of that context of like what commands and things it ran to do it in the main context, and that just gets wasted. So these are really good at atomic tasks. You can just kind of extrapolate all the noise out to separate threads, and then it just gets safely thrown away when it's done. It also speeds your workflows up because you can parallelize. So rather than having everything go sequentially through the main thread, you can have things running in the background while your main thread also makes progress. And it allows you to make a lot more ground a lot quicker. The one other thing we will talk about is a fairly recent addition. It was added with 4.6, and that is agent teams. So agent teams allow you to dispatch groups of subagents for different specializations to work together to achieve a common goal. So like you can see here is an example of like research and review. So multiple teammates go investigate different facets of a problem, build new modules or features. They kind of tag team different features and things like that. And then cross layer. So like you might have a front end agent, you might have a back end agent, you might have these different components, you might have a tester, and they can all communicate with each other to kind of push the code in the right direction cohesively as a group. And the power of this, and I was going to do my little thing, but it looks like they have one here. The problem with the old approach where subagents couldn't communicate with each other, they could only communicate with the main thread, is that you kind of have this loop where everything has to go through the main agent to get to any other agent. So like, let's say the agent 3 needs information that agent 1 might have. It can't just get it from agent 1. Agent 1 would have to pass it through the main agent, which would then have to give it to agent 3. And the problem here is that you waste context because the main thread doesn't need it. The agent does. So by establishing direct lines of communication between the subagents themselves, they are able to even further optimize context by only communicating as needed things to each other. And then the main thread doesn't have to worry about it at all. It just cares about results, which is the way it should be. Agent Teams is super powerful. I recently built a project with it for handling automation testing, so like Playwright. I wrote a test team that would, like, go explore the browser with the Vercel agent browser, write the scripts, and then I have a reviewer that like reviews the code, debugs it, gets it fixed, and then puts it into a merge request. But yeah, this systematic grouping of agents to go run and do things, and then we just report results back to the main thread is super great. And then what our main thread becomes is an orchestrator. So it keeps it really clean. That was a bit of a ramble, but I think we covered it. But yeah, the main takeaways are subagents basically perform the same way as the main thread, but they are detached. They have their own context window, and they're really specialized. So you should really think about using them for atomic, specific tasks to kind of keep your main thread clean and focused on the main plan. But yeah, I hope this helps. We're going to do a couple more episodes on a couple other things, but that's going to be it for this one. So thank you.